Let me. All right. Well, welcome to this online meetup. My name is Max, and I run education and community for Okta workloads. And the topic today is understanding Okta workloads events. Now, this event is based on this blog post that I published several weeks ago, and I'll share the link so you'll receive a message tomorrow with the link to the recording, and I'll include this blog post. But again, you can. Um, read it, but we're going to cover almost everything here. So, um, and specifically, we're going to talk about the built-in events, how to use event hooks, how to use third-party webhooks for third-party services, and then how to get events from a system log. Right now, this event is being recorded, and then the replay will be available tomorrow on YouTube, and I will again you'll receive a message with a link to the recording and also the blog post. All right. So let's get started. That's the only slide that I have. So we'll go here. Let me refresh this. All right, awesome. So to start, Okta workloads at the foundation or the basic level is a event-driven platform. And what it means is that when an event happens, whether in Okta or in a third-party system, you can listen to that event and then trigger a flow. All right, so that's how it works. Again, an event happens, and then you can trigger a flow and then run automation when that event happens. And again, there are different options for using different events and then triggering a flow. Now, let me go here to the blog post just to show you. So there are the built-in connector events, and that's where we're going to start as the first example. All right, so let me, I'm in this folder, February 2025. I've got two flows here that I'm going to use a little bit later, but I'm going to create a new flow here. And now every flow, when you create it, why don't we just give it a name? Events one, built in. All right. And so every time you create a flow, the first card is when this happens, right? So this is like, hey, when an event happens, you want to run this flow. And then when we click add event, what you will see is you'll see a list of connectors that workflows has, right? And this is the list of connectors that workflows has. But also these are connectors which expose events, right? If you go, you probably, if you build before, if you go to action here, you'll see connectors also. Now, these are action or actions, right? These are API endpoints. But if we go here, this list of connectors shows the connectors for which there are events available. And then if I select Okta, for example, it will show me a list of all the events that I can trigger this flow when any particular event is fired in Okta. So you can see there is a long list of events. Okay, so let's pick one. For example, let's see here. User added to group, right? So it says starts a flow when a user is added to a group in Okta. Okay, when you click on that, and then it adds the event card. Now you do need to create a connection to the connector. So it's right here. So whether you use Okta or any third-party connector, it will of course prompt you to enter a connection for the first time. I'm not going to cover it in this particular meetup, so I'm just going to use an existing one. And then this card then has all the fields that this event makes available, right? So when this event is fired, And then when this flow runs, all these fields will have data from the event, right? So again, let me just quickly delete this and show you. So when this happens, you add an event, and then you get a list of connectors which have events available. And then I select Okta. Now here, connected apps means I created the connection for these connectors. And then this has all the apps, right? So there's some connectors for which I don't have a connection in my workflows instance. So again, I'm going to select Okta, and then I get a list of all the events that I can use, and then I can search. And let's see, create it. Right. Now, so this is enough already to test, and that's what I actually like to do whenever building a flow. I don't build the flow and then test it. I add the event card, and then I just let's see if I can, trigger the flow. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to turn the flow on. All right. And so it's on and it's listening. Now I'm going to go to my Okta dashboard. Let me refresh here so make sure it doesn't sign me out. Um, and then I'm going to go to directory. I'm going to go to groups, and then I can pick any group here. Let's say this one, and then I'm going to assign a person. So let's assign Jessica here, right? Now, if I go to my flow and I switch to execution history, I can see right away that there's one execution, right? That's when I added Jessica. And now I can see all the information that this event makes available, right? So there's date and time, there's some IDs here, there's admin, right? That's the person who added the user. It's me in this case, right? And then you can see the Okta user. That's the person, right? That's Jessica. And there's some other information. But this indicates that the event works, and now you can continue building the event. Now, there's some basic information about the Okta user. Primarily, there's their email, and then just display name. I mean, just depending on the flow you're building, this could be enough of information. But if it's not enough information, you can add other cards here to read more information about the user, and then just continue building the flow, right? Now, we're not going to build the flow here. My goal is just to show you, hey, this is how you trigger a flow in an event, right? So this is the most, I guess, I don't like to say basic, but the most straightforward. You just use an existing um, event card, right? And by existing, I mean, I don't want to delete this one, but when you click add event, you select one of the existing connectors, and then you select an event from that connector, right? Now, so this is an example with Okta. And Okta, of course, is going to have the most events supported. But let's see if we can also use a third-party connector. So let me create a new flow. Let's give this a name. So this is the second option. So, oh, well, sorry, no. So we did the built-in connector from Okta, and now we're doing other services. So this is the part. So events to, I'll just call this Jira because I'll be using Jira. All right. So same thing. I click add event, and of course now instead of selecting Okta, I'm going to select Jira. Right? And then you can see these are the events that Jira supports. And I want, for example, a new issue, right? So when the new Jira issue is created, I want to trigger this flow, right? And then it's going to ask you for a project. I only have one project. This is my kind of a personal developer instance. You can also run a query for which issues, but I'm not going to worry about it today. And again, I do have a connection that I created before. So again, if it's the first time using Jira, you'll be prompted to create a connection, and I'm going to save. Now there's a lot of fields available that you can show or hide I'm just going to keep the default values, but you can see there's a long list you can customize, right? But I'm just going to these three, right? I'm going to save, and I'm going to turn the flow on. Again, so first example was using Okta, and then the second example we're using, um, it's still a built-in card, but it's just, it's an external connector in this case. Or a connector for an external service, I should say. All right, so let's see here. Let me go to Safari, and let me just refresh. And I'm going to create a new, right? So someone creates a new issue in Jira, and I only have one project, and the issue type is fine. It can be email request, and maybe add user to a new account. I can copy this. All right. And this is fine. I'm going to click create. Right? So I just created a new issue. And if I go back to my flow, let's see in execution history, right? We can see there's success. And then we can see the raw data that Jira sends here. So there's, again, a lot of information. Again, there are, of course, cards. You can parse this information, or you can just modify, show other fields that you can extract the data directly. But yeah, this is, it works the same way. It's just another service. It's not an Okta, but it works in a similar way. I also, now this one fires, so when you create an issue on a Jira side, this event is fired immediately. And then you saw that I saw the execution right away. There are some other connectors where it's not immediately, it's actually pulling. It checks every 5 minutes for a new event. I'm just going to give you a quick example. So just for you to be aware, so we'll call this events 2. This could be Google Drive, for example. And if I add to Google Drive, and let's say folder created. All right, so again, I already have a connection to Google Drive, and this is all the information that I get. So notice here at the bottom, you'll see this little clock, and it says flow checks for changes every 5 minutes. So you will run the flow, and then if I turn the flow on here, 5 minutes is the most frequency you can run this flow. And if I turn this on, you will see that oh, it's not. I don't know why it's not turning on here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So you can see that it's counting down. So again, so it's gonna check for a new folder every 5 minutes. So it works differently than Jira. So just be aware of that. All right. I'm gonna turn this off. Okay. So let's see. Questions. All right. I don't see any questions. Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat, or there is a Q&A section as well. Okay, but we covered this so far, right? So we're using the built-in connector events from Okta and then other services. Okay, so there is a connector, it has events that it supports, and it just kind of works more or less straightforward. All right, now another option is to use an event hook, right? And let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go here. Now, an event hook in Okta is just a different name that Okta uses for a webhook. But let me turn off these flows here. And the one I want, let's call this events 3 event hook. All right, let me see. I think that's a question. Let's see here. So there's a question. What is the best way to audit all of your flows as a new workflow admin has to audit purging workflows? I think just sort of I mean just based on the information in the question, I would just, you can organize, of course, into folders. That could help you audit the flows, but I think just reviewing them, I don't think there's a way to really audit or any built-in mechanism to audit the flows automatically. So I would organize the flows into folders, and you can have subfolders, and perhaps that will help you. So hopefully that answers the question. But feel free to maybe add more information. Also, what I'm going to do is, I don't remember if my slide had it, but I know people sometimes have questions after the event, so I'm going to put my email for everyone. So if you have any questions after, you can always also email me. All right. Cool. Okay. Now, so what is this event hook thing? So we've got the cards, and we saw how they work. But behind the scenes, these are actually webhooks. And so there is a way in Okta that you can actually set up the webhook or the event hook. And again, the webhook and event hook is really the same thing, at least in our context. You can set it up sort of yourself in a way. Now, to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an event as well. And instead of using one of the out of the box, I'm going to use an API endpoint. All right. And first, what I'm going to do is I need to save this and then go back. You click the brackets here, and then it has the URL. So there's a way to invoke a flow via an API endpoint, and then this is the URL. Okay, so I'm going to copy and I'm going to close. So again, API endpoint. So you can invoke this flow from any other system via an API endpoint. Now I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to go to workflow. And under workflow, there is event hooks, right? And I'm going to now click here. I'm going to say create event webhook. And I'm going to use the same user edit to group. So what it asks me is to enter the endpoint URL. So I'm going to set the endpoint URL. I'm going to give this a name, user edit to a group, and I'm just going to give it 2 because I think I already have one with a similar name. There's some, you can customize the request. There's some security stuff, but I'm not going to worry about it. But what I'm going to do here at the end, at the bottom of this page, is select all events that apply, right? So this is where you select an event, right? Again, with the card, the event was built in, but here you actually select an event, and you can search, so user edit to group, right? And then I'm going to click create hook and continue. There is an option to add a filter. We're going to do it in just a second. I'm going to skip the step. And then I created a webhook. So what this means is that when a user is added to a group, right? In the first example, we added the card and then triggered the flow. This is very similar, but there's a little bit more manual setup that happened here. Is I set the URL, right? And I selected the event from a, but it will work the same way. When I add a user to a group, it will trigger this event hook, which will in turn trigger my flow, right? What you can do is you can actually test this right here, for example. And what it does, actually, it's really nice, is that it actually searches the system log for a similar event. And then if it finds one, it shows you the JSON that you can send and test the flow. Let me turn the flow on. All right, I'm going to go to execution history. And let's go back, and I'm going to deliver a request. And if I go here, actually, let's go do this. We can see that the request was delivered, and then they can see all the information. And then the body, right? It's raw request. So you need to add other cards to really get the information that you need. But we can see that that user added to group event, right? So that event happened, and then it in turn triggered the flow, right? So it works in a very, it works almost, identical to the using the event card. So you might be wondering, so, well, what's the point? Well, what you can do here is you can add event filtering, right? And why would you do that? So let's say I want to only trigger a flow when a user is added to a specific group, right? Now, if I use the approach, let me show you. Let me go back. If I use this approach with the built-in, right? Then let's say I have, 50 groups in my organization. So anytime I add a user to a group, this flow will run, right? It doesn't really care which group, it will run. Now, you could add logic here and check what the group is, but then this will trigger still the flow each time, right? And then, of course, you can add some logic and then not continue running the flow. Now, you could also do what I just did with the event hook, but it's still going to work the same way, right? It's going to trigger that event hook and return the flow for every group. Doesn't matter. But with the filtering, you can say, hey, only run this event hook only for a specific group, right? So that adds this extra customization, right? So you can target a specific group. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that. But I see someone has a question. I see. Pradeep, do you want to type a question into the chat or into the Q&A? I see yours your hand, but if it's just you just click by accident, no worries, of course. All right. Yeah, I'll check the Q&A in the chat. All right, so let's go here and let's you do need to, so it says verify. Now, if it's if the endpoint here, if it's an external API, will ask you to verify, right? So make sure you have access to it, but because this is Okta, it verifies automatically. So you don't need to do it. Okay, but let's go to filters, and I'm going to click edit. I'm going to enable a filter, and right here it says event type, okay? And you can select some of the fields here. And what I need is, let's see, I need target display name equals, and then I enter the group name. So this is no code builders, right? And you can add another filter if you would like, right? And I'm going to click save, right? And if I, let me just want to show you something right here. If you want to see, so the event structure is right here, right? So this target that I selected, so target display name I think it was event, right? I think it was event display name. Yeah, right here. Target display name, right? So that's those fields that you saw in the dropdown. That's where that's how you know what value they hold. Okay. Let me see here. Question. I see that you can add hooks for when users are being added to a group. Could we have a hook for when users are assigned to an app? So yes, there's a long list of different events that you can use, right? So also when a user is added to an app, there's an event card, right, in workflow. So you could use that, but there's also one in a webhook. And in fact, the events that the event hook has, you're gonna have more events there than the event cards, right? Because those are well, there's a list of event hook events, and then we add the cards for them. So that's how it works. So you're gonna have more event hook events available. So I hope that answers the question. And let me see if I can quickly find a link to the so there's event catalog. So there's in the blog. So you can search for events here, all the events which you can use, right? And then when you see an event, it says event hook eligible. So that's how you know you can set it up. Okay. But let's run. What did I do? Did I? Oh, it's here. Okay. Let's see. So details, and they got a filter. Right. So now let's run this. Go here. Okay. And so what I'm going to do, I'll go to the directory. I go to groups. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a user to a different group. So, right, we're only targeting no-code builders, but I'm going to say, let's do this no-code automation. And let me just make sure that all my other flows are off. Okay, only this one is on. Okay. So let's add a person and Kate. And then I should not see an event here. Right? It's still showing one record, and we can maybe go back and check again. All right. But now if I go to groups and then I select no code builders, right? That's the group we're targeting with the filter. And I'm going to assign people. And let's say I think Irene. And if I go, all right, we can see that there's an event right here, right? And I can search for Irene. You can actually search this JSON, which is a pretty neat capability. We can see that Irene was, that's the person that I added, and that's the event. It has her information. All right. So that's another. So again, this with the filter, it gives you flexibility where you can just target very, specific groups and just that, before it would be very sort of noisy, right? The flow would trigger on every time someone is added to a group. But this allows you to make it a lot less noisy when you can target only a specific group. Okay. So going back to the blog post, we covered this right here, right? For Okta, use webhooks for Okta events. Let me see here. Let me read this question. Can we make dynamic filters rather than using them statically? I don't believe so. You can make it dynamic. Let me go to workflow event hooks and filter. You can use Okta expression language. So let me see simple expressions. I don't know if you can make them, or maybe I guess you. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, you can use the expression language. I'm not sure if you can put variables though. That's the only thing. But yeah, yeah, hopefully that helps. Also, one more thing is the filtering is in early access, so you do need to enable it in your I think the settings or the features page in Okta, right? So that's the filtering. So the event hooks, I think that's there, but to get filtering, you do need to enable it. So, all right. Okay, now the next option is using for third-party services. So this example was using Okta events, right? But now, again, when something happens in a third-party system, right, you want to do something similar. And so let's see how that works. And for that, I have a flow that I built already, just to save some time. And it's this one. I have type form. So what it does is that, again, the first card is, again, API endpoint. And then I just extract some values from the form, from the JSON, and then I just display them. But how does it work? Let me go type form. Right, so this is a created type form. This is similar to Google Forms. We actually also have a template if you want to use Google Forms. We have a template in workflows that shows you how to set it up. And then this is my form. And it has just 3 fields: first name, last name, and email. I'm going to run this in a second, but let me show you. So then I go to connect. And of course, every service will have a different way to set up the webhook. And then I'm going to go to webhooks. And notice right here, I set the URL, my flow URL, right? My flow API endpoint URL, right? And then if you need to edit, there's some other information you can do. It also shows you all the deliveries, right? Now, on the workflow side, again, right? That's the URL that I set on the type form side. But let's run this and let's turn this on. All right, so these are runs from yesterday or previously. Let's see, create. Let's see, where can we share? Let's run this. And I'm gonna max. Right, so when I click OK, right, so that's an event in this case, right? And then it will trigger the webhook, and then in turn triggers the flow. When I click OK, oh, I need to click submit. And then let's go. Right, you can see here 9:35, and then we can see the information that was extracted from the response, or from the request, I should say, right? This is my information. Okay, so that's how you set up a webhook with a third-party system, right? And again, every system is going to have a slightly different setup. I just used Typeform. It was straightforward to show in this format. Okay, and the last example that I want to show you is, well, let's go here. So what we did is that, again, we saw the built-in cards for Okta, the built-in cards for other services. We saw how we can customize a little bit using event hooks, and then specifically with a filter. And then we saw how to use for a third-party service. Okay. And the last one is we can search, if there's no event, no webhook, and you can search the system log for some events, and then trigger the flow when you see those events in the system log. Okay. So let me show you. Let me turn this off. Right. So you would need to run this on schedule, right? So you'll probably set up a schedule right here as the schedule card. Let me set schedule, and you can run this every 15 minutes or so, for example, to check if there are new events. I'm not gonna set it up right now. But I'm using the search system logs card from Okta, and I've got this filter. What I'm doing is I'm looking for failed logins, right? And I'm going back 30 days, right? So I've got the today today, and then I subtract 30 days, and then I say since 30 days back, right? And let's run this, right? And then it shows me all the failed logins in the past 30 days, all right? Now, if I go to system log, reports, and then system log. So how did I set up this query? Well, I'm going to copy this, and um, you would go to actually this is the advanced filtering here is maybe a little bit more straightforward. Is that it gives you the various fields available, so you can build your query this way, right? And then apply filter and it will appear here. Let me show you. So if I paste this query, and if I go to advanced filters, it shows me the event fields, right? And to find out, like to see like, hey, what's outcome result or outcome reason? Well, is that you let me search here. What you do is, oh, so it's not showing my events here because by default it goes only a week back. And so you want to change it to something like maybe 30 days or more and then search again. And then what you do is you expand the event information. And so these are the fields. So you can see the information, or the JSON event fields. And so that's how you build this query, right? But now, so what you do is you build this query, you test it here, and then you take this and you copy it here, um, and um, and then yeah, you can just build the flow. So I have an example, and I can actually also include it in the email where you run this, again, maybe on schedule, and then you save all the failed logins into a table, and then you export to a CSV file, and then you email that CSV file, right? So that's one, perhaps one automation you could build. But yeah, that's all I wanted to show you, right? So, this was the last example. Again, I'll just quickly built-in events with the cards, existing cards for other services. We used web event hooks with filtering. We saw an example using third-party service. And then lastly, there is also the system log. You can search the system log for events. There is the very last thing I want to mention, and it's not covered in this particular blog, but there is a connector builder, right? You might be aware where you can build connectors. And so you can build a connector which supports events also, right? Um, so you build a connector and then that supports various actions, talking to a third-party service. And then of course, again, you can also build event cards for that connector, right? So that's maybe option number 5 here. But yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. So let me know if you have any other questions. But other than that, yeah, thank you for joining today. I hope this was helpful. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, feel free to my email is there if you have any questions. Let's see, there's one. Can you go back to the event hook creation for API? Yes. Let me go event hook creation for API. Sorry, the Zoom bar got in the way. Um, So right here. I think is this the page that you wanted to see? So it's right here. And then there's another question, could this fit into helper flow? Um, if you are referring to which example, if you can maybe let me know which example you're referring to. If you are searching the system log and you need to save the values into a table, yes, you would use a helper flow here. Here, I'll go back here. I know this. We'll get a recording. Yes, it is recorded, and you'll get a recording. I'll send the message tomorrow. It'll be live. So yes. Another question. Let's see here. I was struggling getting my Okta API event hook triggering the workflow. It was displaying a date from 1969. Oh yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me to really say what's not, why I was displaying the date. I and feel free to email me. We also have a community forum that here I'm gonna that I'm gonna put this in the chat that you could post your question there or so and maybe just share more, share screenshots and maybe more information and we'll figure it out. But it's just it's hard for me to really say why I was displaying that date. And also, we're actually running a contest now, so this is actually a good time to post on the forum. If you go to the workflows news, there's a contest we're running that you can win some cool Okta stuff. So here, I'll share this in the chat, but it's in the news category. So yeah, so post a question and you might win some cool coffee stuff here. Let's see here. Another question. If the event hook have more capability, then is there any purpose for using the actual cards specifically for Okta? Well, it's not that they have more capability. Well, I guess they do have the filtering capability. It's using the card is just more straightforward, right? Kind of it's a more, kind of a more of a no code way. Right? Everything is built in for you, all the fields, everything. Uh, when you get the event hook, you get the raw response or request, and you have to parse it yourself. So I think if the event card, if there's an event card and it works for you, my advice is to use it. But now in the cases where you need to add filtering and maybe more customization, then yes, you just sort of drop down to using an event hook. Yes, exactly. Yes. It just depending on what you need. I mean, if there's a card that works for what I'm doing, I would always use a card. Let's see here. When you use a group, you use the name. Is it best practice to use the ID instead? Um, I mean, you could use an ID as well. I mean, I'm not sure if there's like a best practice for that. I think it's just what works for your case. I just wanted to use the name. It's just a little bit more straightforward when I show it. But yes, you can use an ID or you can use any other information in the request that sort of works for you. Yeah, you're welcome. Cool, folks. Well, really, I love we have a lot of questions today. Cool. But thanks again for joining. My email is there, my forum, my email is in the chat. My forum, I'm sorry, there's a link to the forum, and then you'll get a recording with links sometime tomorrow. And again, I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.